Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Sail Through the Standards MCAS. My name is Jan Moody, and my job here at Edulastic is to work with teachers like you and help you understand and learn about Edulastic and also help you connect with one another. So I'm really excited to be here today for this webinar, and I want to say thank you for taking the time and joining us live. We are joined here today by a really great panelist. Her name is Victoria Miles, and she'll be presenting today and sharing how she uses Edulastic to prepare for Massachusetts state testing. Also on the line with me, I have my colleague Roy, who's in the room, and he'll be answering questions and helping in the chat. And we also have Sean Kendall, and Sean is a customer success manager here at Edulastic. And similarly to Roy, he will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A bubble and making sure that you leave here today with all of the information that you were hoping to get. So sit back, relax, and thank you for joining us today for Sail Through the Standards MCAS. So before I hand things off to Victoria, there are a few housekeeping items that I want to go over. And I just briefly mentioned both of these, but the first is the chat. At the bottom of your screen, you see a little chat icon. I encourage you to use this throughout the entire webinar to ask questions and add any commentary or insights that you may have. We want this to be really interactive and for you, again, to leave with all of the information that you were hoping to get out of this. So I encourage you to collaborate with one another and to connect and to share any thoughts that you may have. If you want to ask an official question during the webinar, please use the Q&A bubble at the bottom of your screen. This will help us make sure that we see all of the questions that come in, and we either will answer them by typing a response or we will answer them live during our designated Q&A time at the end. So at this time, I encourage you all to type your name and where you're tuning in from in the chat. It looks like we have Jen from Wareham Public Schools. Awesome. Welcome, Jen. Roy, hi. Victoria says, oh, she's in Wareham, and Sean says, we love Wareham too. Welcome, Kathy. Welcome, Sarah. Awesome. People from all over the place. Jeremy, welcome. Rhode Island. Jamie, Courtney, Kristen, awesome. So many people. Thank you for tuning in today. We are excited to share this next half hour with you. All right, so I know based on the results of this poll, many people are already familiar with Edulastic, but some of you are brand new from Edulastic. So I wanted to give just a quick little overview of what Edulastic is for those of you who are brand new. Edulastic is an online digital assessment platform for K-12 students, teachers, and school districts. There are over 30 different question types, and these are tech-enhanced items. There are 35,000 items in the Edulastic Certified Item Bank, and you can assign these to your class and really do so much with them. There are over 30,000 publicly available assessments on Edulastic that other teachers have created and that you can, again, assign to your class or adjust and edit and tweak and then make them fit exactly what you're looking for. We also have really powerful data and reports on Edulastic, and this is what I'm referring to when I say standards tracking and mastery reports. A lot of teachers absolutely love this, and this is something that I think is so valuable about Edulastic is the reports that are available to you as a teacher. And I think that Victoria will talk a little bit about this later on. This last bullet point is what we're focusing on today, that Edulastic really mimics the look and feel of state tests. And I have a few slides later that kind of show this using screenshots. But this is some feedback that we get from teachers is that they absolutely love the fact that when their students take an assessment on Edulastic, it feels like they're taking a state test. And so once that testing day rolls around in spring and it's the real thing, then their students don't feel thrown off and scared by all of the tech-enhanced items and all of the questions on the state test because they've been practicing with Edulastic. I wanted to mention that today's webinar will focus on Massachusetts state test prep. But if you are looking for a more introduction to Edulastic, like how to create an account and how to create an assessment and then assign that to your class and kind of those more basic Edulastic teacher account things, I encourage you to check out our Edulastic 101 webinar. And we just had an Edulastic 101 webinar 2 weeks ago now, so it's brand new and it was a really great presentation, and that will walk you through some of those more introductory Edulastic things. So I think that Roy can hopefully share the link to that in the chat. So I wanted to share that there are MCAS released items on Edulastic, and these are available to you, to all of you, to use and assign and give to your students to help them prepare for state tests. So to find all of these released items on Edulastic, you log in or create an account if you're brand new. You head over to the assessment library, which is these little books right here, and then you would search MCAS up in the search bar here. And all of these pre-made assessments will populate. And one of the great things about Edulastic is that you either can assign them as is, or you can click on them and only assign certain questions and edit them and make them more catered to fit your individual students' needs. And if we have time at the end, I can further walk through how to find all of these MCAS released items on Edulastic. So this is what I was hinting at earlier, that Edulastic really mirrors the test format of the MCAS. And I wanted to input these screenshots to show everybody that these are a couple example questions on the Massachusetts state test. This is asking students to understand how to graph on a coordinate plane, but in order for a student to be successful on this question, they would have to know how to use this little math calculator that you see right here. And I will show this on the next slide, but on Edulastic, we have a math calculator that looks really similar, and so students can practice using that. This right here is a drag and drop question, and so similarly, students would need to know how to drag the appropriate answers into the right place in order to get this answer right. So it's when taking a test online, it's both about understanding the content of the question and understanding how to tackle the question from a technology point of view. And that's what Edulastic really helps students do. So these are very similar questions to the one on the previous slides, but on Edulastic. And as you can see, they're set up really similarly. And so students can take these practice questions and practice items on Edulastic, and it helps them prepare for state testing because they look and feel exactly the same. So here's that little math calculator. And here's an example of a drag and drop question on Edulastic. I think drag and drop might actually be my favorite question type on Edulastic. A lot of teachers tell us that Edulastic helps their students practice like you play. So again, it just really helps them understand how to tackle these state tests. So we have an Edulastic Innovator team, and that's what Victoria Miles is a part of, who will be presenting later. And we recently asked them what their favorite thing is about using Edulastic to prepare for state tests. These were some of the answers that we got. I thought that these are all really wonderful, and I especially liked them because each teacher pointed out a different feature inside Edulastic that they love, and they all are trying to accomplish the same end goal, but they mentioned something different. I especially liked Kara's answer. She said, the technology enhanced questions, the ability to have more than one reading passage and to include images or video as text also, that I can create my own questions or use already created ones. There's really nothing else like it online. So I thought that was really nice, and I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you all today. And again, if you're looking to kind of learn how to do those things that Kara was talking about today, like embed images or video or audio into your questions in Edulastic, or how she can create my own questions and use already created ones, all of those features are explained in an Edulastic 101 webinar that Roy shared the link to earlier. So if you are brand new, I really do encourage you to check out that Edulastic 101 webinar. I did a little search on Twitter to see what teachers in Massachusetts specifically are sharing about Edulastic. And these are a few of the things that I found. Crystal said, I just shared the amazing world of Edulastic with admin leaders in Massachusetts. Great ways to create quick and easy assessments for instant feedback. Also, they have test prep. So I think what she is referring to there is that those MCAS released items that I showed you all earlier. So I encourage you all to connect with us on Twitter and share how you're using Edulastic in your classrooms. So at this time, I'm going to pass things off to Victoria Miles. Victoria is a math department chair and math teacher in Buzzards Bay, Massachusetts, and she has a really great presentation prepared for you all today. So thank you, Victoria, for being here. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and then you can start sharing, and you can take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jan. Thanks, everybody. Good to see some familiar names in the viewer area, and I'm excited to share some of the things about Edulastic that I really love. So I'm going to just make sure that I'm sharing the screen correctly. Yes, I'm going to continue. I'm going to go to my desktop, share screen. Oh, there I am. Okay. All right, so I am the math department chair in Middleborough, and I teach algebra, I teach geometry, so Edulastic is really helpful for my students as they get ready for the MCAS. And MCAS, most people are probably very familiar with MCAS, so I won't belabor the point. We used to have a paper assessment, and that was called the Legacy MCAS, but now we have a next gen MCAS, next generation, or MCAS 2.0. And our test is now online, it's digital, and MCAS itself is a cumulative high stakes test, and it is assigned to students in grades 3 through 10. It is a high school graduation requirement that students score in the meeting expectations range or higher. It is currently given to students for English, math, and science, and soon I believe history will be added to that. MCAS items are aligned to our state framework, and they are really good models for instruction. A lot goes into creating the MCAS. A lot of teams of people are working on making sure it's a really high quality test. There is a variety of question types, which Jan already pointed out, some screenshots. And there's a mixture of cognitive demand. And that's a really important point, because the MCAS has, yes, some recall questions, but other questions that require students to think real deeply. And one of the nice things about Edulastic is that the question bank allows us to find those items that are higher in cognitive demand. So my story, finding Edulastic, it's a wonderful story. In the summer of 2015, I participated in a professional development activity where educators from across the country, we met in Denver, and we were looking at performance level setting for PARCC. And at that time, Massachusetts was deciding, do we stick with MCAS or do we go with PARCC? So it was important, and I felt privileged to be there. But my favorite part of that whole experience was these digital next-gen items, the drag and drops item that Jan had mentioned, excuse me. And I remember asking the people from Pearson, how do I write test questions like this? How do I make a test where kids can drag and drop and it auto scores and it auto corrects? And the people from Pearson told me, you really can't. There's too much code involved and there's really nothing out there. So I decided, when I went back to my hotel room that night, I'm gonna look, is there anything out there that's free, that's available for teachers, that allows us to make these? And that's when I located Edulastic. And I've been having a good time on this platform ever since. I started just using the free version for a few years. Then my administrator in my district found out that I was having a lot of success with it, and we purchased the enterprise version last year. We wrote common assessments for all of our main math courses at the high school. So Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Pre-Calculus. And this year, what we're doing is we're looking at the data from last year's test assignments, and we're revising our tests. We're using data to adjust our instruction. So this quote by Grant Wiggins, I thought was really appropriate for this webinar, because Edulastic gives students lots of opportunities to practice. They get instant feedback. And the research, of course, shows that students need lots of practice in order for the material to stick. So here's a picture of my Algebra 1 students, this year's class. And this particular group of students are taking an Edulastic quiz. Maybe it was a group quiz, or it could have been a formative assessment, I'm not sure. But you can see that they have their whiteboards. They're all talking about the problem that they're looking at, and they're agreeing on the math together. When they push submit, they are instantly able to see their score. And a nice quote from a student. That part about submitting and seeing their score is really important to them. So Edulastic, again, it is aligned to the Massachusetts framework, and all kinds of formative assessments, immediate feedback for kids, especially the tech-enhanced items, help students get ready for that MCAS 2.0. So that digital part of the test is not really going to be a hurdle if your students have practice with Edulastic. And especially the data reports have been very helpful for us. So I'll show you an example of a data report. We are this year writing all common assessments for our middle school. And this is a recent report from a grade 8 math test. This was on the volume of circular solids. And the way we interpret this, the harder questions came first, the easier questions are at the right end. That little timeline that you see shows the length of time on average that it took students to answer each question. And so, of course, like question 10 took a little bit more time. It was actually over like 9 minutes. You can download this as a CSV. And that's what I typically do. And from there, I usually add the data to a Google Sheet, which I share out with the teachers. And the teachers use this Google Sheet as a way to collaborate on PLCs. And they might notice that, okay, these items are testing the same standard, but why would, say, question number 8 not score as high as question number 2? And so they can write their comments and think about revisions for future administrations of the same test. So question number 1 on this test, I just grabbed a screenshot to show you. And so this is math related. But this one here is an easier style question because the radius is given and the height is given, and we're simply asking students for the volume. But on the same test, question number 5 was harder for them because the volume was given, the height was given, and we're asking them for the diameter. So during a PLC meeting, the teachers might communicate, they might collaborate, and they might understand that, you know what, the kids are doing so well with the straight volume, let's add some more practice in our instruction for finding the radius if they know the volume. So that's been helpful in our professional collaboration at my district. And then I just wanted to show you this screenshot. We have an MCAS review class at my high school. We use data to identify students who should be in this class. These are fake names because there is a present mode that is anonymous, which is super nice on the dashboard for Edulastic. This pre-test, the results were quite dismal, but we would expect that on a pre-test. And we're going to use the results here to drive our instruction. But we also use Edulastic not only for our at-risk students, but I like to use Edulastic for our high-performing students as well. So in the last MCAS, we were kind of disappointed that our students who we felt like should have scored in the exceeding range only scored in meeting expectations. So what we've done this year is we use the library, the books that Jan had talked about, and then I used the search criteria of grade 10. You would put in your own grade, you would put in your own subject. I always want to go Edulastic certified. And I typed in MCAS as a keyword. Only 6 assessments came up. And of those 6 assessments, one is the brand new, the most recent release of my grade 10 math. Also, you'll find your biology in there. You'll find all grades and all MCAS subjects. So what I do is I click on the test, and you have options here. You can preview it, you can assign it directly, or you create a new version. So that's what I like to do when I'm making my own tests for students. Now, when you click on create your own version, you have an option. I pick this one, a new version of each question, and then you hit proceed. And up pops the test, which has, as you know, 42 questions on the MCAS. And instead of MCAS being the author, it appears as though I am the author so that I can edit each item. So I go ahead into each item and I simply tag the item to the category that it belongs to. And I go through that for all of the released items. And when I'm done, I have a whole bunch of tagged items for algebra, for functions, for geometry, etc. And then I use those tagged items to make my own tests. And what we've done this year in our honors classes is we have grouped all of those items together. And this is a weekly test that we give our, say, Algebra 2 honors. It's assigned on a Monday, it's due on a Friday. And we believe that this is going to help our students who are higher performing even get into the next highest range. And I think that is what I had planned for my slides.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victoria. That was really helpful.
You bet.
Okay, I'm going to take back over sharing.
Okay, great.
Yes, awesome job there, Victoria. Very good. Some good insights in there, even for me as a CSM for Edulastic, being able to see kind of the things you all do was really nice. So thank you for that.
Agreed. It's always so nice to hear from the teacher's perspective and the way ways that they're using it in their classroom. So thank you, Victoria. So now we are going to move on to our question and discussion time. But before we dive into that, we have a live giveaway. So again, I'm really excited that everybody joined us live. And one of the perks of being here for a live webinar is we are giving away some Edulastic swag. So we randomly selected using a random number generator a winner today. And our winner is Catherine Palladino. So congratulations, Catherine. Thank you for joining us live. And I have your email from your registration. So I will be sending you an email to figure out if you want a t-shirt or a computer sleeve. So yeah, thank you for joining us live and congratulations, Catherine. I also wanted to mention that even if you didn't necessarily win this live swag giveaway, all of you who are here today live have been entered into a greater poll of live attendees, and you will be entered to win and possibly win an Edulastic Teacher Premium account. So keep an eye on your email. You still could win something for being a live attendee. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat or have some discussion. I have a few more things to go over and then we'll come back to the question time. All right. So I wanted to mention that we have an Edulastic Resource Center called our Teacher Training Hub, and there's a lot of really great information on this webpage. There's other webinars, some live conferences and events that we're going to. There's some teaching strategies, and there's some Edulastic community things. So this is like a Facebook group that you could join, and other ways that you can connect with other educators who are passionate about Edulastic and who are passionate about using data to drive their instruction. So I really encourage you to check out our Edulastic resource page and to join us for other live events and to connect with other educators through there. So I think that Roy can hopefully send the link to that in the chat. We have more webinars coming up. These are all next week. So I encourage you to share these with other colleagues that you may have in other states, or if you know other teachers in other states. And then lastly, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I know these 30-minute webinars really fly by, but we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and spending 30 minutes with us. When you do leave today, after we go back to the Q&A time, there will be a webinar survey, and we really appreciate your input on this so that we can improve for future webinars. Also, please connect with us on social media. I know that Sean mentioned in the chat that we have a lot of exciting updates coming to Edulastic, and all of these will be announced, and there's lots of other great things always happening on Edulastic, and all of this comes from and is announced on our YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn pages. So please reach out to us there. All right, let's head back to our question and discussion time. And are there any questions that have rolled in? Okay, so it looks like Lisa just asked, can teachers create questions in Edulastic? Lisa, yes, teachers definitely can create questions in Edulastic. This is something that you will be showed how to do when you check out one of those Edulastic 101 webinars. But when you are in the question bank, you can hit create a new question, and then you'll be able to choose from over 30 different tech-enhanced items, and you can write your own questions there and really make them your own, and then easily assign them to your class as well. Can these shared links be sent in an email that we signed up through? Deborah, yes, I love that idea. I will make sure that these shared links get shared with you. Any other questions? Okay. Training Hub, awesome. Thanks, no problem, Deborah. Some nice things coming in the chat about present mode, agreed. Okay, next question from Lisa is there co-teacher capabilities in classes? Yes, Co-teacher is a premium feature. I'm pretty sure, Sean, if you could double check or correct me if I'm wrong here, but yes, definitely there are co-teacher capabilities, but I do think that that is a premium feature. Colleen just said co-teacher is awesome. I agree.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Both teachers have to be premium for them to use the co-teacher feature.
Awesome. And then Brianna says, can you talk more about collaboration to create and grade assessments? Sean, I'm wondering if you want to take on this question.
Collaboration to create and grade assessments. So as far as the collaboration and creating and grading assessments, you have the co-teacher feature, which is the ability to basically have some, maybe an intervention specialist, maybe a true co-teacher who's in there with you. But that person is going to be able to see all of the data for your classes or your particular class that you share them with. So they're able to go in there and do anything that you can as the primary teacher, I guess, if you will, the primary teacher in that class. So they'll be able to do that. The good news is that your private assessment, so if you're just kind of in there and you're building some, assessments that you're just kind of using it like a sandbox, none of those are going to be shared with this co-teacher. Just the data, the classes, and what's really nice about that is they can go in and say, you know what, I'm going to go work with these three students today, and they can assign it to only those three students. So then you can be working with your group of students, they can be working with theirs, and you have your own little tests going at the same time. As far as like creating the assessments, you have what's called a co-author. The co-author feature will allow two different or even more than two, but it will allow multiple teachers to go in and add or remove questions on a test. We do suggest that you don't do that at the same time. Usually the first teacher adds their questions, and then they'll add a co-teacher for that co-teacher to go in and start adding questions. And again, only one person should go in at a time, but you're able to use that co-author feature to create a test together.
Great. Thank you, Sean, for explaining that.
Sure.
And then Jill just brought up a really great question, and I thank you, Jill, for bringing this up. She said, can you highlight and eliminate answer and other tools like that are there tools like that on Edulastic that mirror the MCAS? And the answer to that is yes. There's a lot of great highlighting and answer elimination and other hint functions that are available to students on Edulastic. Awesome. And Victoria just answered that in the chat as well. And I also want to say that we are about to be to the end of our half hour here. And I see that there are other questions that are coming in through the chat and the Q&A. And even if we don't get to your questions right now, I will follow up with you via email. All right. Any other final, I think. Be assigned through Google Classroom. Awesome. Lisa says, can Edulastic assessments be assigned through Google Classroom and or Clever? Yes, Lisa, definitely. We sync with both Google Classroom and with Clever. And so that is a really awesome feature. And hopefully that either Sean or Roy can share a link to our help articles for that.
Yeah, if Roy, if you can send that over. I wanted to mention something on that Google Classroom and Clever. So you're able to roster your classes both through Google Classroom and through Clever. However, when you do that, we ask that you only do one or the other. So if your district is doing Clever, or your school's doing Clever, try to stick with that, because if you try to sync both your Google Classrooms and your Clever classrooms, you're going to end up having duplicate classes. So just choose one or the other. So if you really like Google Classroom, stick with that, or if you really want to use Clever, sync through that. But Google Classroom is going to give you the ability to actually post a link of that assessment onto Google Classroom. So all the students have to do is go to Google Classroom, click on that link, and it'll take them right to that assessment in Edulastic.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that, Sean. And everybody, we have reached the end of our half hour here, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I have written down all of the questions that we haven't gotten to answer, and I will follow up with you via email. So thank you so much for joining us today for Sail Through the Standards. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best with the rest of your school year and the rest of your evening. Thank you, Victoria, for your great presentation. I loved it, and there was so many compliments coming in through the chat about it as well.
My pleasure. So nice to join you guys. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Keep up the good work, Edulastic.
Thanks. All right, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Bye, everyone.